spookiest time of the year. Halloween is right around the corner as I'm making this video, so I thought it could be fun to look at some telescope photos of objects in space that look particularly spooky. I've picked my favourite 5 of them and ranked them to get my favourite. But let me know in the comments down below if you've got a different favourite or if you've seen a particularly spooky space photo that I've missed. Let's get into this. Starting at number 5, and I've gone for an object called the Franken Nebula, also known as the Skull and Crossbones Nebula or the even catchier NGC 2467. Spooky. After hearing that first name, you probably won't be shocked to hear that this is a nebula that looks a bit like a Frankenstein. But what even is a nebula? It's basically just a huge cloud of dust and gas out in space, usually lit up by a star or even a cluster of stars. Because while dust is pretty cool, it doesn't glow on its own, so without some stars behind it to light it up, we wouldn't be able to see them at all. While cloud of dust doesn't sound too grand, the clouds that form nebulae can actually expand up to many light years across, meaning they're millions and millions of miles in diameter, so they're pretty huge. The Franken Nebula is about 4,420 light years away, and for this nebula, we have huge clouds making up the yellow, green, and pink regions, and clusters of stars lighting up the eye sockets and mouth. And likely, many new stars are forming here too, as clouds of dust are the ideal place for gravitational collapse to form new stars in a stellar nursery. Now, nebulae are perfect for looking for spooky objects out in space, for the same reason that cloud watching is fun here on Earth. If you look hard enough at enough clouds, you can pretty much see any shape in them. As such, you can pretty much find nebulae that look like anything. So I just wanted to give a few honourable mentions here to some spooky nebulae that didn't make the list. Firstly, the Black Widow Nebula, an arachnid-looking cloud of red dust and gas, lit up by a whole bunch of stars in the centre. Remember, stars are just big balls of fire, so they're really good at lighting things up. Our sun is a star, it's just way closer than all the other stars we see in the night sky. Next up, the Eerie Fog Nebula, also called NGC 1999, which is a particularly spooky looking cloud with a large hole in the middle, somehow making it look extra creepy. This one is actually lit up by a single star in the centre called V380 Orionis. Then there's Orion's Bat, which is a nebula that looks like a giant bat in space with 2 gleaming eyes. There's the Spooky Sprite Nebula, which looks like a haunted sprite trying to escape into space. And even the Ghosts of Cepheus, which looks like 2 demons scaring some poor soul into the distance. But like I say, you can find nebulae that look like pretty much anything. So if spooky images aren't your thing, well, first of all, why are you watching this? But secondly, here's a nebula that looks like a cat to cheer you up. If you squint anyway, it sort of looks like a cat. Now is actually a good time to mention one of astronomy's dirty secrets, which is that almost all of the colours in photographs like this are a complete lie. Most photos of space aren't taken using visible wavelengths of light. They use something like radio waves or X-rays, and this means that we can't actually see them with our own eyes. So these photos have to be artificially shifted into the visible range of light. And this gives astronomers a bit of freedom to choose some of the colours in photos to make them more appealing and to make them just look cool. With all that said, I've saved the best nebula for number 4 on our list. This is the Witch Head Nebula, which is a beautiful face appearing out of another giant cloud of dust. This photo was taken using infrared light by NASA's Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, presumably named this because they really wanted their acronym to spell WISE, and then coloured green, presumably for an added witchy feel. You can see it here in a different colour, which is equally awesome. Moving swiftly on to number 3 in the list, and we have our first non-nebula object, the Sun. You might be thinking, I've seen the Sun before and it wasn't that spooky, and normally you'd be right, but when it looks like this, it's pretty scary. Before we go any further, never look at the Sun. Never point a telescope without a special filter at the Sun, never look at the Sun with your eyes. You will damage them. Now, with that said, why does the Sun look like a pumpkin in this photo? It's a picture taken on October 8th, 2014, and it shows the most active areas of the Sun. It's actually a combination of a couple different wavelengths of light, all taken by NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory. The lit up regions that look like the eyes, mouth, and even the flaming ears of a jack-o'-lantern are the active areas on the surface of the Sun, meaning these areas are giving out more light and energy than the rest of the Sun's surface. This is likely due to the magnetic field of the Sun, which is always changing and flinging energy out into space. I'll leave a video in the description from NASA that explains the magnetic field of the Sun in a bit more detail. Finally, once again note that these images weren't taken by a telescope that sees visible light. So the colours here have been chosen probably to emphasise the spooky nature of this image, and they don't necessarily represent the real colour of the Sun at that time. Moving on to number 2 on our list, and I've gone for a moon. Not our moon, but a pretty small moon of Saturn called Mimas. Why have I chosen this moon, you ask? Because it looks like the Death Star. Maybe not so spooky, but definitely scary. It's named after a Greek titan that has snakes for legs, and it has a famous crater, named the Herschel crater, after the famous astronomer William Herschel, which gives it an appearance very reminiscent of Star Trek's famous weapon. Yeah, I said Star Trek, get over it. What are you gonna do? Sound off in the comments? Please. At the time of making this video, we know of 82 moons of Saturn, and while Mimas is on the smaller side, it's probably the coolest looking one, and we got some great photos of Mimas when the Cassini probe was visiting Saturn. The moon orbits at around half the distance from Saturn as our moon orbits around the Earth, and it seems to take quite a pounding from asteroids in space, judging by the number of craters on its surface. The biggest one, the Herschel crater that gives it that Death Star look, is about 81 miles across and covers about a third of the moon's face, and must have been caused by a very heavy impact from a large asteroid hitting the moon a long time ago. Finally, after all that, we have number 1 on our list. The one I think is the coolest spooky space photo around. And, drumroll please, I've given it to this amazing looking ghoulish face in space. How good is that? The image was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope in June 2019, and NASA describes this face as a ghostly apparition, but it's actually 2 galaxies colliding about 704 million light years from Earth. Since a galaxy is billions of stars, this whole face is light years across. So this ghoul is absurdly large. If you want the formal name, this galaxy merger is known as ARP Mador 2026-424. ARP Mador. This galaxy merger's formal name is on screen now, but I prefer to call it Super Cool Space Ghoul. The 2 eyes are the cores of the 2 colliding galaxies, and the blue shape of the face is largely made up of young stars. When the galaxies smash together, this results in a whole load of space dust and gas colliding, which gives the perfect conditions for the formation of new stars. The spooky face is really a stellar nursery of new stars being born, and the nose and mouth are just other clumps of stars which happen to be in the right place to enhance this picture. NASA estimate that the nice ring structure that give the outline of the face will be around for the next 100 million years or so, slowly evolving as the massive collision continues. And within 1 billion or 2 years, the galaxy merger will be complete and the face will be lost forever. In its place, just a massive galaxy. Any astronomers 1 billion years from now wouldn't even be able to tell anything about the spooky history of this galaxy merger. Anyway, that's all the spooky space I've got time for today, but let me know in the comments which was your favourite picture, or if you think my ranking is completely wrong. Until next time, stay safe team, I'll see you soon. Bye!